This is day 3 after the great solar eclipse of April 8th. And I just want to share this insight with you of what I'm picking up on a collective level, my perception of the energy, so that we can share notes, so to speak, and hopefully have a great deal of clarity of what it is and how we can interpret our experiences going forward. So welcome into my space. My name is Anka and I do energy work. I perceive myself as this technician because really I work with grids. And even on the individual level, I work with the energy grid around a person, also on a planetary level, or the interconnection between the individual and the grid. But with this gift, really, I work with energy on an impersonal level because I have this collective side. So this is what I'm sharing with you. And so I've really come into 3 large themes. And here they are. And then I'll go into individual ones. Number 1, it's so easy. Okay. Number 2, a new level of safety. This one feels so good, even say it out loud. It's just a new level of safety. And number 3, direct access to the Akash. Okay. Number 1, what do I mean by it's so easy? Well, here's the thing. We have come into such clarity, and it could have happened for you even 2 weeks or so prior to the eclipse. But when we are inundated with a great deal of light and light codes, all of a sudden, themes or problems, huge problems in our lives that we've been working on for years. By years, I mean long periods, like decades. And it's been almost like this root of our focus for so long. But now, with this amount of clarity that we've been given, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that was it? That was a solution? And it's almost like a lot of these ideas in our head that we looked at as a problem to be solved. It's not really per se a problem. It just is, but it's not an individual's fault, or there is a situation, yes, that from an unhealed perspective or from a limited perspective, we had a really hard time seeing it as innocent or seeing it as, well, it's just how certain things are, but I don't have to gung ho apply myself and put this huge resistance and put this huge barrier of judgment as this is an imperfection that I have to create into a perfection, right? And we've been working internally of how to solve this huge problem. And literally overnight, we wake up and we go, wow, this was so easy. How did I dedicate decades to this issue? For me, I've been working with fear and all these fractals, right? I'll post the previous video because it was all about that, this fear that all of a sudden I looked at it as, what a circus, right? Like how did I get lost in for all these years in these shades of this problem that so I'm not saying that you're making this up or there is not a problem there, but all of a sudden from this new perspective, from this huge perspective, you're not going to categorize it as a problem. And that's a huge difference, right? And there is a freedom that comes with that, because all of a sudden it's like, I don't have this time that I'm dedicating to this thing that it's not even there. On a one level, we certainly have made it up. Was it real? It was so real, and it created so much heartache. And what wasn't it Eckhart Tolle that said, suffering is useless unless you actually come into the realization that suffering is useless, right? I mean, it's something like that. And many before him, right? Like there is like the pain that we're attaching to a lot of these situations in our life. It's truly made up on a certain level, but until we are in this space of realization that, oh my God, yeah, it is truly so, we have to deal with that suffering. So we cannot be uncompassionate, but we can certainly work on this expansion for us to let go of that attachment and allow this idea to come in that it is so easy. It is so easy that it's almost like there wasn't a problem there all along. I just didn't interpret it as such because I had this attachment to this idea, to this certainty. And now that melted away. So then all of a sudden, my problem, my gigantic mountain of a problem just went poof overnight. Right? And you're left there. Wow. So look for that theme. Invite that theme in to come in if it hasn't made its way in, because it's certainly the wave, it's certainly making its rounds, right? To just melt away these stuck perceptions. Number 2, a new level of safety. This to me really feels like the feminine is so at home in her body. A couple of weeks ago, or maybe it wasn't even that long ago, I put this almost asking video out there. Can we cool the feminine? Because it's so harsh. The feminine is losing that patient. It's ready to cut some heads off. And now I feel that feminine all of a sudden remembers, like, oh, hold on, I don't have to do that. I am so grand and I'm so at home and I'm fully settled in this space where I can go back into my fullness, my wholeness. And that safety is so rooted now that it's, and this is the translation, right? On a collective basis, I feel like we don't need that protection. We had this innate preparedness in us. You have to be ready for a danger. You have to be ready for an attack. You have to be in full defense mode, and you have to have your guard on, right? You never know where that danger is gonna spring up. But now the feminine is saying, I don't need that. It's already there because I know who I am. And I don't need this artificial screen or filter, this preparedness to artificially be there for me in case something is to happen. And with that, I mean, there's also an expansion. We were large before, we felt unlimited, but somehow, even though I could not feel the edge of my being, I still somehow felt I was in a container. Now, from this perspective now, it's like, oh yeah, I felt large and unlimited, but the unlimitedness almost came because it was so large, I would not reach the edge of the container. But now there is a freedom where it's like, oh yeah, there is no boundary. There's no boundary over here at all. So it's an unlimitless in total freedom. And so within that expansion, this automatic safety becomes normalized. And it's a totally new way of being. We can still be assertive, but we don't have to be preemptively assertive. We can resolve a situation even if somebody is, knowingly or unknowingly insulting us, or we might have the perception that they're insulting us, or they're thinking we're fools. We don't have to prove to them that we are worthy. We don't have to prove to them that we are not fools. We no longer have to have that harshness and to fight to be seen, to be heard. We can just be in this safety, and this feels like, whoa, this is so new. Like, of course, the mind and the habits, they are playing catch up because we're reacting differently to us. So it's new to us, and we have to apply our work. Sometimes there are situations where we will be tested to see how safe we truly are. Is that an innate thing? And I really want you to, on an individual level, I want you to test this out. Can you take this artificial barrier of safety or of protection? Can you take it off? Or do you need some more space and time to develop that, or to not to develop, to ground and stabilize, right? And possibly, I mean, we're not just going through an integration with the solar eclipse. We are literally recalibrating all our sensors and transducers and programming inside, biologically, right? Physiologically, as well as on a belief system, on a mental level. And so the individual still has to do the work and recalibrate this stabilization, this energy that has been coming through new habits, through a lot of pause and choosing how to respond to that situation, right? Or to a question that are being asked. So there is work to be done on a mental level, but I'm just talking energetically. For a lot of us, this safety is here. It's grounded. For some of us, it might be stable already. And it is so grand. And maybe like yesterday, what I was feeling with this particular theme, because this expansion is so huge, my body reacted and it wanted to contract, right? It's like, I'm not used with this level of safety, with this level of benevolence, maybe, or this level of it's okay to be seen for who you are. And immediately I went into hermit mode. I mean, we're already in hermit mode, and we're figuring it out, and we're sitting with our light within, allowing that light to show us possibly a complete whole new way. But at the same time, that I could feel my biology just not knowing how to react, right? With this freedom, with this beauty. So I had to sob again and be with my grief, because there was another piece of me. I mean, I have a whole system created in me that is geared towards defending myself, right? So all that defense mechanism is now uninstalling. And I mean, it was dying. I certainly went through a huge death through the solar eclipse. And I yet had another day of grieving, allowing that sorrow to move through my body. That was the first half of the day. And luckily, even though I had these very heavy emotions, just deep into grief, yet the expansion, the freedom that was on top of that was like there. So it was like, but I know it's okay. I know I'm aware of this love that's out there, but there's this column of grief that still needs to be felt through. So that was, like I was saying, the first half. And then the second half was all of a sudden this, okay, let's celebrate. Like, where's the party? Can we have fun? Can we look into this expansion? Like, what's here? And, at the end of the day, you're kind of exhausted because you're going from these huge shifts from one perspective to the other. But literally, we are now talking about such quick integration, which is just like, it's a miracle in itself. Last theme, direct access to the Akash. And I'm not just talking, we've had access to the Akash and we've had protocol to reach the Akash. And that was great. But now I'm talking about, actually, I wrote it down. What? Yes. Actively interacting with the Akash. It is on a live level that we are interacting to the Akash. And maybe actually, it might really connect with theme number 1. It's so easy because all of a sudden you're not viewing your problem, the situation, from a very narrow individual perspective. Now you have access and direct interaction with this Akash, where your perspective on a very subtle level, but it's there. It's here now. And so your sight has a huge increase where you can perceive this same exact problem. I mean, we can literally talk about overnight. You wake up this morning and your whole vision, or the message has been given to you, or you speak it in a different way, that you come to this, but it's like this. But I really think it's because this huge perspective that our biology has access to and interacting with. And now the way we are solving problems, it's a lot It's easier. So this could feel as a gift, right? This interaction with the Akash. It can be a gift, or it can feel kind of harsh, terrible in some instances. But it's just information. This is the big thing that I want to make sure it's kept on in this objective level. So I'm gonna give you my experience of how this comes about, right? And so as a gift, and this was 8 months ago about, my husband and I go on a backpacking trip at high altitude for 2 nights. So we are at 12,000 between that, backpacking. When I come off the mountain, literally the next day, I could see energy. I could see these grids just out of the blue. And a piece of me went, but how do you think you got that? Right? Because a lot of times it's like, I don't know how I know, but I know how to move these lines of energy, and I'm giving the direction. I mean, I couldn't write a protocol. I have to be in that space. I have to be doing the energy work, but I know how to do it in that moment. How do I got there? Well, we don't have to go through this learning process. We have access to this Akash. So that's one piece of this gift, that it very well could be you wake up with new gifts. They still have to be refined or developed a little bit more, but for the most part, it seems they appeared out of nowhere. On a more, let's just say, unpleasant interaction is when you are given access to reasons. How do you get there? So when I asked, this is just a couple of days before the eclipse, I asked, what is this fear? I've been struggling, right, for years with this fear in different shades. And finally, I'm like, okay, what are you? My second chakra opened into the first, and I was given a whole movie, right? All my past lives. I was in meditation the whole afternoon with breaks. I would feed the kids, let the dog out, come back, and the movie will continue with this lifetime and this lifetime. And sometimes it would be a longer unfoldment, and other times it would be just like these scenes, but it wasn't pleasant, right? Because it was a lot of these movies came with a lot of emotion, and it's hard to process all that just in a short period of time, like one afternoon. I did it, but more so, I got to see where this fear came from, and it made so much sense because it was terrifying for me to turn the camera on and to push the record button. And I'm not a great public speaker, but I'll go through that. Speaking in a meeting or leading a live event, I'm way more comfortable. But you put me in the comfort of my own home, alone in the room, nobody can hear, unlimited access to editing the videos, completely terrified, right? And it was almost like, what is all this? Why is this fear? Well, now it's so clear, right? I have lifetimes of power and power abuse um, and paying for using that power with my life in many situations. So of course, that fear of using my energy work and stepping into my power and allowing people to see me. It was on this unconscious level, was it always like, but do they know? Who knows what I do? It took a long time for me to claim, yes, I'm a healer, I'm a priestess, I am a magician, I am an alchemist. That was horrifying for me to say that out loud with people. It's like, oh yeah, I'm actually a project manager. That's who I am, right? Because I was so comfortable with that. That identity was okay. It took a long time to shift into, oh no. But now I understand, and I can hold this huge compassion for myself, and I can work through this fear because I see the bigger picture. And it was very uncomfortable. Also, the other thing with the Akash, and this I'm not sure how to explain it very well, and it was almost given to me as an analogy, as a metaphor. We might still be clearing issues, karma from the past, but for the most part, we're done. Okay, many of us are done with that type of work. And now we are integrating and stepping and allowing this new knowing of who we are to blossom through ourselves. So a lot of these snippets that might come from the Akash during the day they're like distractions. So the image that I was given was like in a movie. There are many, many scenes that do not make the timeline of the movie, right? Or back in the day, it was like a literal movie strip, and they would literally cut the film out and I guess glue the pieces that they want or something. Well, there are these cut pieces that are out there that didn't quite make the timeline, like the complete timeline. So I don't quite fully understand it. Maybe there's like splits of timelines and they come back together, but then there's this chunks, okay, of of energies that can pull you back into a situation that is also not really real. Like somebody already went through and decided, yeah, that this is not important. It's not really um, aligned with the whole movie, with that whole lifetime, and we're gonna disregard it. So there's all this garbage, basically, right? Unused film that they're going to come up and it's almost like they're asking for, well, what do you want me to do? Are you going to use me? Are you going to delete me? Where do you want to do? Because we're going to use the hard drive space. And so the message with that while working with Akash is that don't get caught up if you came into the knowing and into your purpose. Don't allow yourself to get distracted, because now I think a lot of us got onto this bandwidth of I have to clear, I have to let go, I have to transmute, I have to. Yes, you've done that for years, but now we're kind of done. And some of us, we still carry this momentum of, oh, I still have to work on myself. Deep breath in. And it really is going to require your full awareness to decipher, is this a real karmic thing that, yes, it's still holding me down in somewhat of a limiting way. And yes, this needs to be worked through. But then there's these other things that are kind of nipping at you, and you could just grab them, possibly look at them and say, oh yeah, I've already looked at you, or whatever you want to, however you interact with that. And then you say, thank you so much, I'm returning you to the light, right? And it's gone. But pay attention and take the time to discern, because right now your focus should be into this new blossoming of yourself. And that attention, we have to overcome the mind and the habits. It's going to take some strength and discernment to make the shift into the blossoming with the whole of us, right? So even if we've done the shift energetically, we need to shift it on belief systems, on habitual patterns, on our environment, sometimes even our clothes, our identity, all those things. And so this is how I perceive these next months are going to go, is applying that discernment. Where do I place my attention? Is this real? Is this, I mean, it's not that it's not real, but it's like a distraction, and I can take care of it right now, or I can just leave it, or whatever. But that's hugely important. So, okay, I think I covered all these things that came to me. So I want to say this period would be 2 weeks, probably a little bit more before the eclipse, and now, these 3 days after the eclipse. It's been a tough ride. I feel I was in fear and processing the fear, processing the grief. But now that the energies have starting to stabilize, I want to celebrate and I want to spread my wings and feel the air and enjoy this light. If you've noticed, I don't know how the light is in your area, but the light here is so much more crisper. It's such at a new brightness level. I love being outside. So I'm extending you that celebration. Thank you for the time here together, and I'll see you soon.